And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to ZorkCast Live. And today we have a very special guest with us, and that is the infamous Scott of Vital Vegas, and of course, my wonderful co-host, Marc Meltzer, is joining us today. So, hello, everyone. How are you doing?
Hey. Hi, everyone watching as well. Good to see you, Mark. Good to see you, Michael.
Scott here.
Yeah, so Scott, let's just dive right into this. Well, in a moment or two, I guess we'll see. People are joining right now, so we need to give people a few moments. I will stop the little presentation and bring us all up on the lovely screen. And I figured, Scott, tell us a little bit about Vital Vegas and what you do, what your website does. This thing called Twitter. I don't know if I just heard about it recently. Meltz told me about it. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. Yes, what I do as little as possible. VitalVegas.com is a website that's about all things Vegas. That has various offshoots, including a podcast that Mark and 3 other people listen to. Mark listens to it on 10 times speed, so whatever, not recommended. There's also the Twitter account at Vital Vegas that in May got about 50 million tweet impressions. I'm rounding up. But there's a lot of discussion and chatter there. I try to deliver some entertainment, some scoop, some gossip, some reckless speculation. And overall, I'm really just here to have fun and tell jokes. And it's not traditional media. I think that's a selling point. Others may not. But I'm really just a fan of Las Vegas, and I'm a fan of you both. Despite Mark's best efforts, I'm a big fan of his and a big fan of TravelZork as well. Your just an unsolicited plug. Your weekly roundups are fleek. They're bomb. That's where I go to steal all the content from my podcast and my blog. So I guess I'll just put it out there.
Well, that's really amazing that you mentioned that. And also, I mean, that's something that Mark has been doing now. It seems like it's forever. We've been doing the Vegas news on Sundays, and it's something I look forward to every week. And I'm actually glad that people are stealing stuff from us, because that means it must be successful.
Is it stealing? Per se.
We're all inspired by somebody.
Yes, that's right. But we're getting a lot of quite a few people joined us today, and a lot of people are saying hello. We have New Jersey, Brooklyn, number of.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Folks from the East Coast. Mark, aren't you from the East Coast somewhere?
I grew up in the South Bronx, sub-South.
Yes, I believe that's the East Coast, technically.
It is.
And so let's before we get into this whole thing, I hear Vegas is reopening. You know, I heard somebody say something about that. Before we get into that, I want to ask Mark how his day's going, because that's how I always like to pretty much start, because I need my little Meltz update.
My day is going very well. I just went outside for the first time. It's already scorching, and I can't wait till get my temperature checked walking down the Vegas Strip tomorrow, where they won't let you in if you're 100 degrees or higher. So we'll see how that goes. But for today, I'm in beautiful indoors, and it's wonderful to be here with everybody, even Scott.
I heard that. Hey, I think it's 100.4. I don't want people to be discouraged if they're at 100. I think they've got a 0.4. They've got some leeway, but that's, I think people are going to actually bring thermometers, and they're going to bring ice packs, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But that is going to be. I used to say that paid parking was the first thing that people encountered when they went to a casino, and it gave them kind of a negative first impression. So I'm curious, now that parking will mostly be free, that temperature check is really going to be that first interaction with the casino. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any if if I'm sure if it moves quickly, everybody will be fine with it. But if there's a line or if there's any kind of confusion about that temperature check, I think that'll be an interesting dynamic of casinos now.
Yeah, that is. I thought there was. Now, what's the difference when we talk about the temperature check? Are we also talking about like the thermal scan that you have when you enter properties? Because Wynn did a really nice video this week about, welcome back to Wynn Las Vegas, where they were showing the thermal scan. They were showing where I'm going to take Mark for his manicure on Sunday, and all because. Mark's told me that the one thing he's been missing all week has been, for the last 3 months, is getting a manicure. So
honestly, my cuticles are wrecked between the sanitizer and the hand washing. My fingers are just the worst.
I'm sure. So back to the temperature. So is that thermal scan thing what you're talking about with the temperature, or are there going to be actual individual temperature checks in addition to that?
Yeah, no, I think different casinos are using different methods. So some just they haven't really gotten the thermal scanning in place. It was in the Stratosphere, and they mentioned it'll just be individual scans. Interestingly, in the Strat, it's just going to be temperature scans for hotel guests as opposed to just the general casino guest. But others have the full scale. Wynn, I think, is setting the bar pretty high for how it's being done and the thoroughness of what they're doing. I think some of these places are going to use the handheld ones that are very uncomfortable to me, because to me it always looked like you were holding a gun to someone's head. I think quite a few are going to use that. I think a few have. I think the thermal scanning is actually much more expensive, so I'm not sure how many are going to do it. But I think it's a question of who is doing which, and it remains to be seen how it'll be implemented, because so many casinos have so many entrances. I think the Plaza, Jonathan Jossel said he has like 27 entrances to contend with. Even and the Plaza is not this big sprawling strip.
Yeah, no,
casino, so that it's all new ground, and for Vegas watchers, even though it's been depressing to have the casinos closed, I think there's a lot of fascination with what everybody's been trying to figure this out, and how it's going to be implemented, how it impacts the experience, and all those other factors. I think are all a lot of open-ended questions.
Yeah, no,
let's be clear. I was joking about the temperature checks. It's just funny to me, that's going to be a thing when casinos are opening on the hottest day of the year. So, but yes. A lot of them Red Rock already has theirs set up because the restaurants are open, and there's you're walking through the finish line of a marathon for the one they're using. And as someone in the chat room mentioned, if you are graded too high, you'll be set aside and retested 10 minutes later to see if your body cools down. Because if you are like me and you walk from, let's say, the Bellagio to Caesar's Palace in 107-degree heat, you're going to need time to chill out, literally. So I think it's a smart thing. And I think a lot of the people just going back to casinos are going to be patient, because they know, and Scott, you've said this pretty often, this is the new temporary. This is what we have to deal with today. We'll see this in 6 months, in a year. Who knows? Maybe not.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's interesting because, now it seems pretty straightforward that there's this procedure where you do the temperature check, you let somebody cool down if they're too hot, you give them this medical, but advice or attention or whatever they're going to do. But this was actually can I use the term shitstorm on the ZorkCast?
You can definitely use that. You can definitely use that term.
Yeah, it was an absolute shitstorm with many casino officials. None of this has been publicized, but they were losing their minds because the rules that were coming down, the guidelines, were just baffling, and many of them just seemed completely undoable because you're getting into this realm where a Las Vegas casino is put in the position of having to basically diagnose somebody, quarantine somebody, forcing a customer to holding them in some holding cell or a quarantine area, like a lot of that stuff it's totally new. But it was a source of huge consternation of the casinos, and they've sorted out. Everybody kind of found this middle ground that they thought would be kind of doable, manageable. But trust me, they are all praying that this is weeks and not months, because some of these procedures and just the overall vibe is going to change. I mean, you've seen all the video and photos of the plexiglass dividers and dealers wearing masks. I always tell this story because I used to hang out with a casino manager, and he would actually scan the tables, and he would reprimand dealers who had their arms folded, because best practices in a casino is if you have an empty table and somebody's standing with their arms folded, they're going to go somewhere else. So to think about how the world has changed and casinos have changed, to have a dealer in front of you, there's no smile you can see. They're going to have to smize, with their eyes. It's going to, I think, change the dynamic quite a bit, and everybody's hoping for less is more, that this is going to sort itself out quickly, and some of this stuff is just going to fall by the wayside. A lot of these plexiglass dividers are kind of made on the cheap and are totally disposable, because I think most folks in the industry, aside from the cost savings, believe that they won't be used long. So they didn't invest in these fancy, Wynn did these branded dividers with their logo and all, every single seat and all that built into the table. Like, a lot of them are just like, here's this piece of plexiglass between you and the cashier, and you'll throw it away as the minute you get permission to do that. So,
well, I've been saying that quite a bit to people, that this is just a starting point, and it's an absolutely acceptable starting point. Everything has to start somewhere. We need to get, this has to start reopening. Of course, we need to be more cautious when we start up, but this will not be the Vegas we see in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months on a lot of levels. And I truly believe, I've said to people, if you're planning not to visit to next year, don't worry about any of this stuff, because I really have heard a lot of people, or worry about it if you want to, but I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, well, this isn't the Vegas I necessarily want to come back to. And I say, well, that might be true at the moment, but this is all going to rapidly change, and that's fine. And I'm still very much in favor of all of the measures that are being putting in place. I do agree with you. I don't like the plexiglass ideas. I think plexiglass gets dirty, doesn't look very sturdy. I'm not really sure if you want to require people to wear masks. I think if all of the customers and all of the dealers are wearing masks and you have social distancing, I'm not really sure what the plexiglass is also doing in addition to that. So maybe I'm wrong. So I'll tread very lightly, but I would figure I would much prefer to see people in masks than be around plexiglass dividers. But that's my opinion.
The plexiglass, the plexiglass, to me, that is more of a protection for staff than it is between customers. I think the casinos are kind of concerned about potential liability, and the unions have been very vocal in their wanting the casinos to take as many steps, preventative steps as possible. So those dividers are really to add another layer between customers and the dealers. So I agree, and I think the interesting kind of the game to play is what's the over under on how long this lasts, because the governor has made it pretty clear that he doesn't think things will be back to normal until there's a vaccine. Well, the vaccine is 9 months off, a year off. So that's a little scary for everybody. But, that's the question, is how long this will take and what changes are going to be around after. And you know what? I love some of the temporary changes, because if you go to a restaurant now, it is so quiet. I am so happy. It's horrible for restaurants, but I tend to be all about my experience. 50% capacity is a blessing. The loudest
totally agree.
restaurants What's that? Oh, you like it?
I
Oh,
totally
knew we'd
agree.
find
It's all
common
coming
ground.
back to the way I want to live my life.
There you
Well,
go.
it's true
So-
because if you're looking for, if you love to play blackjack but you hate people, having a maximum of 3 people at a blackjack table is going to work really well for you, because there's no way that you're going to be that, you're not going to be as annoyed as you regularly are. Now remember, I play baccarat, and usually none of the Asian people want to play with me anyway, so I'm alone at the table. So people have been avoiding me. People have been avoiding me for years at baccarat. So I can tell you that I know exactly what it's like to play totally alone. Before we pivot, I had a few more questions, because I'm a dice and a baccarat guy. So I'm very curious about this sanitizing the dice thing. I mean, this is an absolute curiosity to me. But before we get to that, I wanted to start with you, Scott, and then go on to Mark. What's the first thing you're going to do in a gaming in a casino that you haven't done when you get through the door? If you want to tell us what property it'll be, or what's the first game you're going to play, or the first, is it slot machines, is it tables? What are you going to do first?
Yeah, I've been tweeting quite a bit about what I believe to be pent-up demand. I believe that is happening amongst the general public, but I'm really talking about my pent-up demand. I have never, since I moved to Vegas, I've never been away from a casino this long. I do not have a gambling problem. I'm a gaming enthusiast. So I got to say, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm probably, since tonight, restaurants will be open. Well, thank you. I was jarred momentarily, but I'm probably going to have dinner tonight because, and I've got to go downtown because that's my place to play. I'm going to probably have dinner at Saltgrass, which is a new restaurant at the Golden Nugget. It apparently was finished and is opening today. So the hope would be to have dinner there, or somewhere like Triple George. And to add 1201 to my goal genuinely is to play at every casino on Fremont Street. And I'm going to have my stimulus money at hand and fully expect to donate it to the local economy. But I'm going to start probably on one end of the street, probably at the Plaza or Golden Gate, and I'm going to work my way down, back and forth to every casino. And probably end up at El Cortez unless I get tired. But that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to just do the things that I've always taken for granted and the things I've always done. I'm probably just going to do a lot more of it in a much shorter period of time because there is this feeling of appreciation for what Vegas has been. I'm down there quite often anyway, but that it really is a time to just do the things you love the most. If I finish on Fremont, I'm going to hit Sahara's Lounge, Casbar Lounge, and I'm going to do the Strats View Lounge, and for a little video poker to wrap things up. But Wheel of Fortune, $5 Wheel of Fortune at the Golden Gate is either the first or second thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to get a hand pay right out of the gate. That is my prediction.
Really? I love it. A hand pay at Top Dollar?
Yeah, either Top Dollar or Wheel of Fortune. It's a $5 machine, so I only do 4 spins typically. But because it's first night open, I'm going to do probably 8 to 10 spins.
Don't you think maybe you should really do? Don't you think you should go to the $10 denomination Top Dollar tonight? I mean, if you're going to get the hand pay anyway.
Well, there is a machine at Golden Nugget that is a $25. I believe it's a Top Dollar, and I'm probably going to put a couple hundred in that machine because every time I play a $10, I'm looking over at it and somebody's nailing 2 or 3 grand at a pop. And I've always just thought, if I ever get extra money from the government, I'm going to throw a couple $100 in there at $50 a spin. I'm probably only going to do a couple spins, but that's why I like high limit. The holds are lower. And when they pay, it moves the needle. And for people that play, I think you should occasionally just go up to that next increment where you start to feel uncomfortable, because then you're going to start really seeing something if the magic happens. And Vegas has a lot of pent-up magic. Just like there's pent-up demand, there's a lot of pent-up jackpots. Guaranteed. Right. Guaranteed.
No, I love that. That sounds great. That sounds like the way to go for sure. Except only double top dollar. I only like double top dollar, and I only like it with 2 coins. I don't like the 3-coin machine. That bothers me. But other than that, I'm not picky at all.
Yeah, there's weird variations. I stick to the tried and true. I don't do the fancy video things. I always try to find reels, those old school. I think, Mark, you probably know this. The reel machines, I think they're looser than the video version of it.
Anecdotally, they are. I don't know that there's like that you can get a printout of reel versus video, but anecdotally, the older the machine, the less branded the machine, the better the returns are to the player. So that's
branded being like themed like a TV show or a movie.
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Yeah, I would agree with that. Because there's a built-in kind of licensing fees. Like those big giant things, they're just so expensive. The giant screens with the curve. I get Buffalo, but I can't, I'm hurting myself. I just want to push one button. And I want blazing 7s to land right there. And I want to have to wait patiently for my money.
I get it. So Mark,
what's Mark going to do first? I'm sorry.
So, as usual, Scott and I are on totally different paths, but together we will see the entire city full circle. Because I'm going to start out where I live tomorrow morning. I'll hit Red Rock, Suncoast, and Rampart, and then I'll head over to the Strip. And at this point, I'm looking at a combination of Bellagio and Cosmopolitan, which is why I was talking about walking from one to the other, because they're right next to each other. And at some point, I'm going to hit Wynn, the Venetian, and Sahara. So if there's any meetup, it'll be at Sahara. I don't plan on gambling. I'm just going to really go to see what the experience is like right now. And then I'll do some gambling in the future at another time. But that's what I'm looking at right now. I'll probably grab a bite to eat somewhere. Not really too concerned about that. I just don't like being around strangers in general. And with the potential of people spreading their germs on me right now, I'd rather not be around those
Nobody
people.
has germs. Stop it. Nobody has germs.
You know what?
And by the way, I love your
28K modem over there.
What about it?
You keep breaking up.
Oh, son of a probably the Wi-Fi. All the kids are doing it. But no, I like your plan of attack. I wasn't really clear about my timing. I'm going to eat at 9 o'clock, and I'm going to do all this stuff at 12:01. I'm going to work Fremont. Then tomorrow in the morning, like the people who are waiting till the morning hours, then I'm going to do all the ones you're talking about. And I definitely want to see the Bellagio Conservatory because that's a new Asian display that I was nervous they wouldn't. What's that?
We know you want to get a selfie with Hello Kitty.
I don't even know what that is. I want to get a selfie. I want to try to find something distinctly post reopening to take a selfie with, though, because I think we've seen a lot of videos and photos, but I think we're going to encounter things that we haven't seen or expected. Like, those pieces, those little decals they're putting on the floor to do social distancing. The Strat is doing theirs, but when you're in line, it's trivia. So it's trivia about the Strat and I think Vegas in general. So as you're standing on one of the things, they're actually, and then when you move to the next one, you get an answer. Like those kind of little discoveries of, where the casinos have gotten clever about, making this less intrusive or less, I think there are a lot of really creative people in the world of marketing and in the world of casinos and customer experience that have thought this through. And I bet you money you walk into Wynn and they have gone over every inch of that place to say, is this safe? Is this going to make a guest uncomfortable? What can we do to make it more comfortable? Like the level of scrutiny is just amazing. And it's because a lot of these folks have had 2 months to think about this. Mm-hmm. And these are people with decades of casino experience and they know their customers for the most part. And they know that those little decisions are going to affect someone's enjoyment and whether they play or not. And I think the other thing people are going to be surprised by is a lot of these casinos already are spacious. Like there already are distances between machines, and the way these, especially, it used to be a bank, right? It would be 10 in a row. But these new machines are so big, they quite often have 3 sides. So if it has 3 sides, there's no social distancing needed. You're already far enough away. So the thing I noticed when I was walking through the D and video I've seen at Plaza and walking through the Strat is you don't see a difference. You maybe see chairs missing on ones that are the traditional bank, but on the new machines, you honestly, because there's been some question about, can I come as part of a couple and play with that person at the slots? We like to play slots together. Well, if you sit at these machines with 3 sides, you're already far enough away. So there's no special accommodation. The D has already said, if there's 2 people from a household and it's every other machine, we'll make it work for them. So I think a lot of these changes are going to be, once you're past the temperature check, the places that don't do plexiglass everywhere, I don't think it's going to be this big jarring difference other than the masks. You get used to that pretty quickly. I've noticed that in restaurants. The first 5 minutes, it's kind of like, it's weird to talk to somebody in a mask, but 20 minutes in, you're like, it's your server, and they're friendly and they're happy, and they're excited to have you back. And I did want to mention that, even though I'm in the conversation, which I never do, is I think you're going to see an enthusiasm and appreciation a part of these staff members, because they have been out of work for 2 months. Many of them have been furloughed. So they are appreciative of the business. Restaurants are so different because service is the best it's ever been. Fewer people, and they're just super happy for you there. And I think people are being generous in their tipping, and that always perks people up. So whether they've gotten their unemployment check or their stimulus check, or they're just dipping into their 401k like I am, I think everybody's going to just be happy to see customers, and that whole dynamic is going to be great too.
No, I agree with a lot of that. It's very, very interesting. And remember, you also have that other advantage if you have a mask on. Like when I get annoyed at Meltz, I can sort of mouth, "What an asshole," and he can't even see me doing that.
I can see it in your eyes.
You can see it in my eyes.
People know I'm being a dick when I'm being a dick and wearing a mask. I still look the same.
Yeah, no, I think everyone is going to be really enthusiastic. So what is this? So how is it going to work? So I'm curious. Obviously, with dice, they're going to sanitize the dice between each shooter. Does anyone know the story of how you sanitize the dice between each shooter? I'm sort of curious.
I mean, Mark, you can take this if you want, but I think a lot of this stuff, everybody kind of acknowledges this is just, it's silliness, right? Mm-hmm. That's not how you catch a virus. You don't catch a virus from dice or cards. It's an extended period of time in a household or a nursing home or hospital. It's an extended person-to-person contact. This stuff is, as I said, the casinos are concerned with confidence level and protecting their employees. So, a lot of this stuff, it's going to be a symbolic thing because of the reduced capacity on the tables. They're basically going to have 4 people at a dice table with not a lot to do. So it doesn't have to reach over and wipe the dice or just bring in new dice. The cost of dice is not massive, so they could literally just swap them out after a long roll. But I just shared a tweet that was talking about a lot of the changes at Venetian's table games, card games, is that they'll all everything I could think of would be done so that the dealer does everything. The player wouldn't touch the cards or handle the cards at all. So those subtle tweaks, I think longtime players are going to notice, but the typical visitor is not going to know whether they were supposed to hold a card or not. But yeah, and they went through and they cleaned every chip. Everybody's seen those videos of them doing one by one. Like everybody has a chip washer. Why are you standing there scrubbing every single one? It's a comfort level. So that's my 2 cents on that. Is I think procedurally it matters less than that it really is giving people a sense of like they're paying attention to this. That was definitely the vibe that I got at the casinos I've been in preparation for the reopening. Was these are reminders that the casinos care and that they've taken steps. You don't even really care about the specific steps. You just want to know, oh, there's a social distancing decal. There's a sign that says we're committed to your safety. Here's a dealer with a mask. Here's a pit boss with a mask. I feel safer. So that's my take on it.
No, and
Sorry,
I think it's really good if you combine these things. If you combine social distancing with masks, with hand washing, even if only 70% of the people are being really cautious about it, that's still really, really good. I mean, of course, nothing's going to be perfect, but if you combine all those things with the vast majority of the people, look where we are today and look where we were in March. And that's huge to me, and I think it is going to make a really big difference. I mean, obviously there are so many curiosities to me, so what if I want to have a cigar while I'm playing dice? I'm sort of, you're basically saying I hate cigar smokers, so I hope that they tell you.
No,
I saw that.
I don't hate cigar smokers. I hate cigars, and I hate rude cigar smokers. There's a big difference.
I'm a very polite cigar smoker.
Well, I have some smoking related scoop, but I didn't hear Mark's answer to the question of the dice and all that. So I don't want to skip ahead, but it's the biggest scoop ever on the ZorkCast Live, whatever you call it.
Oh, really? So we need to blow you. Well, let's let Mark chime in about dice, and then we'll like make sure you're like in the center of the screen, just so that everyone, so we can get the scoop. I'm glad you gave me a warning here, because I don't have all the I need to get a formal producer, but I've been interviewing, but nobody's interested yet. So Mark, what's your take on all of that?
Have not seen any dice cleaning, so I can't answer that. After all of Scott's rambling, the one question you have for me was, I don't know. I'll find out in about 12. Well, I'll probably find out in about 16 hours. But
okay, well, now we're ready. We're really ready now for this biggest scoop of the night.
I believe it is big scoop. I don't think Mark will like it because it has not been confirmed, but who cares? So as you know, the smoking debate has raged from, and I know we're kind of keeping it lighthearted. Obviously, COVID-19 very serious. It is a respiratory illness. So there's been a lot of discussion in Vegas and in Vegas casino circles about the issue of smoking. There's a long-standing belief that a casino that goes non-smoking in Las Vegas will fail. There are many, many casinos that are non-smoking throughout the country, but Vegas has always just I believe have been working. What's that?
You said there's many casinos that are non-smoking. Which ones?
I'm sorry. Across the country?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe across the country. I honestly don't know, and I'm also being a dick about it.
Oh, yes, you are. I saw a list of about 80. I might have shared the tweet if you're ever on the Twitters. But anyway, so I believe there are many, some maybe like tribal, regional, whatever. But I think the list is 80 plus. So, but
certain jurisdictions have opened non-smoking, like Massachusetts, Boston Harbor, Springfield, everything. Massachusetts gaming is completely non-smoking there.
Well, thank you so much for confirming. Thank you for being dickish, Mark, but you're wrong yet again. Now, so here's the scoop. MGM Resorts is going to, one of its strip casinos is going to be the first completely non-smoking casino resort. The whole thing, casino, hotel, pool, everything, MGM Resorts is going to have the first non-smoking hotel resort in Las Vegas. Now, there was a rumor, Mark will be quick to point this out. There was a rumor that Planet Hollywood was going to do this, and I believe they were. I think they had a freak out because of some of those old, outdated concerns. But I believe that this resort is going to be a marketing hook. It is more youth oriented. It's going to play it up. And it's going to, even though it's happening during the crisis, I believe that this is a huge step. It's going to be a huge step for Vegas. And when people finally see, hopefully, that this is drawing new people, younger people gambling, doing nightlife, restaurants, bars, I believe it's going to be a huge shift for Vegas. I've tried to be neutral on it, but I'm obviously not neutral. I think it is an antiquated practice, and I believe I think Jim Urin even said like this. A lot of this is based on Asia, right? These big Asian whales, they won't play if they can't smoke. And my response is always, where do they eat? What restaurants do they eat in? How do they fly on planes? And what other place indoors can they?
The Asia thing is, and I've heard people say that it's not really so accurate anymore because Macau pretty much so is non-smoking now. Macau basically has smoking chambers, and you will find a little bit of smoking in some of the high-limit private rooms, and the hotels still have smoking in the rooms, but they're pretty much non-smoking. My personal opinion is the only time making a property non-smoking doesn't work is when, and Vegas might be different, so I'll set that aside, is when you take the one property into jurisdiction. It failed horribly with Revel because Revel was the only non-smoking casino in Atlantic City when Revel opened, and Atlantic City wasn't that strong of a market, and they needed, Revel needed all the business that it could possibly get, and it was just, it didn't become enough of a marketing advantage of them for them to be non-smoking. I'm not sure. I am super curious about Vegas because Vegas is a different market. But I do think, if the day did come where all of the casinos had to be non-smoking and follow the same rules, I don't think it would impact revenues as long as everybody could follow the same rules, in my opinion. But also, I would love to see creative solutions. Like in London, one of the casinos, you're allowed to smoke on outdoor terraces. There's no indoor smoking. But one of the casinos put a bunch of games on an outdoor terrace. So it's an outdoor terrace with a bunch of games. Vegas could do a bunch of stuff. If they said, we'll allow smoking outdoors, they could do amazing sort of outdoor spaces, with games if they wanted to. So there are lots of creative, and that would solve the whole problem where people say I smell smoke in the casino or whatever. If they had a separate outdoor section that had some kind of climate control or roof, there's all kinds of creative things that can be done, and I would definitely see Vegas doing that.
I completely agree with that, and the outdoor smoking area should be in Pahrump, so that would be a fun solution.
I'm all for it. Let's do it. I don't see it happening, but I'm all for it.
Yeah,
but that's sort of now interesting about one of the questions that Mark and I were looking at, or we were discussing a little bit, is so you have a lot of different sources that you get information and a lot of different scoop. Do you share everything that you hear? How do you choose what you share? I know every once in a while people get on you for, not being correct on some of your predictions.
Yeah, he's right there.
Yeah, right there. There. Is there for
the record, I was giving you shit because you said I pulled the 1 out of 100, and then when I replied to you, is this a scoop? I stopped at about a half hour because there were already 15. Mm-hmm. Things that were not scoops. They were bullshit.
Yes, and you are not the meanest person when a rumor doesn't pan out. People get obsessed with like, you were wrong. I'm like, how is a rumor wrong? I'm sharing things of interest. Some things happen. Some things I hear about so early in the process that it changes. So if people think it's insane that I said there might be a Major League Baseball thing at Rio. Well, one group of potential buyers had that as their goal. So I didn't say it was going to happen. I was saying it's a rumor, and it was a rumor, and those folks fell out of the race to buy it, and the new folks came in. So people are still going, "What happened to the stadium?" I'm like, that's another thing. Get off my back, man. I'm just sharing stuff I hear. So chill. So no, I do not share everything I hear. Some of the stuff I hear is absolutely off the chart, unbelievable, quite often reported later, but in Vegas, very rarely those crazy stories get reported. I don't have a team of lawyers, so I'm not going to put that out there. There are some of the stuff that I don't share they would have an impact on things that I'm not comfortable having an impact on. Now that the account is seen by a few more people, there are people in financial circles who watch the account. There are casino employees, there are executives, and just people that I think potentially could be harmed. So I think people see it as this kind of freewheeling kind of share any rumor, but that's just it's not true at all. I'm not traditional media, so I don't do the 3 verification thing, as Mark would happily point out. But I share things of interest, and over time, my sources have just gotten better. There are executives at the highest level of these casinos, really many risking their careers to feed me crap. I have no idea why, but I love them for doing it, and it keeps the flow of information and speculation and chatter and conversation and scoop coming. And I humiliate the Las Vegas Review-Journal by beating them to the punch. That's a good day. But some of the stories, like, there is an entertainer in a show here in town. Some of this stuff is heavy. This individual allegedly groped someone after a show, and later this person was offered dinner as a settlement for her complaint to the what I would call sexual assault. She was offered dinner. So I've never shared that because I don't want to impugn anybody's reputation except in this context. But they paid her off. It was $15,000. She signed an NDA. A very well-known group of performers and this individual. I have massive amounts of documentation. I have proof, but I've not shared it. I haven't done a blog post about it. But that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night because I'm not traditional media. I don't pretend to be a traditional journalist. So those kind of stories just stay, they stay kind of behind the scenes. I'm actually reluctant to share them even to friends because I don't know. There's always this question of like insider trading. Like I don't own casino stock, but there's always this question of, because at various times these are like the biggest pieces of news. If you're talking about a casino being purchased or sold, that can affect the market cap of a company by potentially millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. Without exaggeration, that has happened. So I'm not really speaking to my influence. I'm saying that once a rumor gets out there and the wheels start turning, it takes a different level of kind of restraint. And I'm not really known for restraint, but I actually do give it a lot of thought. And there's a lot of scoop that I kind of keep to myself. And if I get drunk enough, sometimes I'll drunk tweet it or mention it on, in a situation like this. But there are some truly great ones. There's stuff where you just don't really know. There's no way to verify it. Like it's one person's claim. It's he said, she said, or he said, or he said, sheep said. You know what I'm saying? But those I tend to shy away from too, because there's just, if I were ever sued, I would not be able to say definitively, here's the person. A lot of folks, they give this to me anonymously. Obviously, they have a lot at stake. So I would never say who a source is if they didn't want anybody to know. And that happens quite often. So if I'm ever sued, if I can't say this person will go to court and testify, those anonymous sources are not going to go to court and testify anything because they have jobs and lives. Again, long answer to a short question, but yeah, there's a ton of stuff to share, even though I'd love to, because it would stir up shit, and that really is my primary goal in life, other than to praise Mark for all his great work, to praise you for TravelZork and all your great work. It's really about praise.
But what I notice here, which maybe a lot of people don't get, is that you've got an extremely huge amount of heart, and you actually are far more cautious about the things that you say than people really realize it. And that's good. I mean, I think, I do think that everybody in media, whether it's traditional media or otherwise, does have a responsibility with what they say. And I think it's tough sometimes. So, I mean, keeping confidences or choosing not to write about something or share it is good. Now, of course, the caveat is, I think you've told us if we get you shots and get you drunk, then we might get a drunk. We might actually get the information. But I think that's
some of my drunk actually are drunk tweets. I'm not just using it for effect. I sometimes say potentially problematic things when I'm drunk. But I think legally, doesn't a hashtag drunk tweet make everything non-litigationable? Mark, I'm pretty sure that's 100%. You're involved.
Is that like when someone puts a hashtag ad next to it? It's an advertisement and sponsored post. So hashtag drunk. Oh,
hashtag egg is actually legal. Whatever Scott is saying is definitely not.
I think you might need to check with your legal counsel again, Scott, if whether drunk tweet is considered legally getting you off the hook. I'm not going to say. Oh, okay. Well, hey,
let's just go with that. No, I don't have a legal team. I don't have a lawyer. I basically just have my mom. Hey, Mom, do you think this is cool? She's like, oh, I don't really read your blog, but yeah, it's fine. But no, when I think about the repercussions of this stuff, a lot of times, because to share that information about that performer that had this issue with the payoff, it would ruin his career. It would close a show. It would, dozens of people rely on this show for their livelihoods. So I have hinted at it, and I have heard back from people within the show and the company that they're kind of put on notice. Like, if this ever happens again, I will go full 100% share on this. So it's kind of a passive aggressive way of resolving the issue without having this whole show close, and all the people that work for the show and all the people in the restaurants related to, people that come to the show, they're eating there and they're gambling there and they're doing other things. Like, I don't want to have that, despite the bad behavior of this individual. I don't want that on my shoulders. I'm just doing a blog. I'm doing a Twitter account. But yeah, there are people who would be fired sometimes for some of this stuff. And I don't want to get people fired. I want to promote Vegas. I want to keep the conversation going, but I don't want to cause any trouble. But yeah, it's
well. Another quick question for you. Also, someone was just asking. We have
to wrap this up. What's happening?
No, I've got lots of. We can go on forever. Well, not forever, but I have a question. Someone was saying, "Do you live in Las Vegas?" Yes, Mark and Scott are in the Las Vegas area. I don't want to give people actual geolocation coordinates for you.
I'll give you my address. I don't care, because my yard is looking terrible. So if you want to swing by, if you're a stalker or whatever, as long as you clean up the yard.
But the other subject I wanted to get onto is there's this website that's called the Essential Las Vegas News, Tips, Deals, and WTF. Have you ever heard of it?
What? What's it called? Oh, you mean mine?
Yes, yours. Oh. Vital Vegas.
I'm like, who stole my tagline, bastards?
Yeah, it's probably Mark. He decided to launch a new site. Except he called it Vegas Vital. It's Vegas Vital.
I actually like Mark's his edge thing, because what is that, Mark? It's eating dining,
Eat, drink, gamble, and everything else.
gambling, and then is there any? Oh, everything. Yeah.
I still call him East
like
Coast.
that.
I still call him East Coast Gambler.
Oh, that's right. His handle changed. When was that, Mark? Like 10 years ago now.
No, I've lived here almost 10 years. It was a couple of years after I moved, so probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago.
So back to Vital Vegas.
Because I haven't been talking enough.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your. Actually, what I'm sort of curious about is I'm curious about how Mark first came upon Vital Vegas and found out or started working. Started getting to know you, and I'm also sort of curious on how you created Vital Vegas, or what was your inspiration for creating Vital Vegas.
Yeah, I would be curious to hear that too, because it seems like Mark and I have been friends probably for a lot of 10 years, but I couldn't say when our first. I have a feeling it was when he was writing for, what was the name of that thing, Mark?
Vegas Chatter.
Vegas Chatter, yeah. I think that one. I love that site, by the way.
Yeah, it was before you even started Vital Vegas. We definitely knew each other previous to that. Maybe before I moved here. I'm not even sure of that, but I've definitely known you before the website started. And before
so
you
let's just say from birth. You followed my work from birth.
Well, you were born about 30, 40, 50 years before me, so I have no idea.
Michael, you assured me he would not be rude.
Well, I assured you he would mostly not be rude, and we've been doing this for 51 minutes, and he's been pretty good. So
I'm getting a little loopy now. We're closing on the hour mark. It's no holds barred now. It's after dark.
So can I start talking about myself again? So yeah, Vital please. Vegas. So I don't. People probably don't know the background, but I, for a time, worked at, when I first got to Vegas, I worked at LosVegas.com. I did their newsletter. I did a lot of stuff for that site, which has changed hands since then. But right after LosVegas.com, I went to Caesars Entertainment. I did marketing, copywriting, and then their blog, which kind of flew under the radar. And it was kind of, it was very organic. Nobody was reading it for quite a long time. And it gave me a chance to kind of figure out what voice I thought would work for this giant corporate conglomerate that, it's always amazed me that casinos can be so, they do stuff that's so exciting, but they market it in such a boring way. So my approach to that was always like, make it entertaining. So even if you don't care about what you're writing about, it's still a joke, or it's a silly picture, or something you can share, or a funny headline, or whatever. Kind of that was my approach at Caesars. It was pretty clear pretty quickly. I made them, probably in my last year there, made them about $2 million in room revenue from the blog, and I was the sole expense of that blog. So their response to that was, you need to not write about some of the stuff you're writing about. So we had creative differences. So I departed Caesars voluntarily and took a year off. And during that time, I decided that I enjoyed it so much, I would just keep doing it, except I could write about all of Vegas rather than just Caesars Entertainment restaurant shows and all that. So it was a pretty natural segue for me. I love photography, so I wanted to really do that. It was more, at the time, it was really just restaurant shows. And then probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the Twitter account started picking up. And I think that came off a string of scoops about casino sales. Like that's about the flashiest news you can do, or flashiest scoop you can do in Vegas. And I had a good run of probably 6 or 8 first shares of this casino being sold. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have another one with these Boyd purchases of the Fiestas casinos, but who knows? Unconfirmed. Thank you, Mark, for saying it. Rumors and speculation, whatever. So then the Twitter account really took off. And I remember having a conversation with Mark where we were talking about how we were racing to get to 1 million tweet impressions. Like there was a day when we had that conversation of like, one of us is going to get 1 million tweet impressions. It's going to be great. We'll go out and have a drink. And as I said last month, 50 million tweet impressions. It has turned into its own thing. So and there's a very healthy, community on Facebook too of like 30,000 people. It's really amazing. And I think people are just passionate about Vegas. So I've tried to make the most of that. And I've just, I've used and exploited some of my friends in the casino business. And I've also tried to be the voice for travelers who are tired of being nickeled and dimed. That helped the blog and the Twitter account really pick up steam too. And then, it's an awful situation with the shutdown and an awful situation with the protests, but people are looking for information that they can't get from traditional media, and it's Mark and I pretty much. And so I will say that we are transforming the delivery of news. And every time Mark shares a picture of coffee, I could see his traffic just spiking, just out of the unbelievable amount of engagement. Am I right?
Especially coffee when I'm out in the burbs. People love the stuff that's not where they go. That is top-notch traffic right there. That is as good as you're going to get. A cup of black coffee somewhere near Summerlin, but not quite Summerlin.
They love it as much as when I complain about paper straws. I would say those two are equivalent on the popularity scale.
Honestly, the paper straw tweets, I do, because they're pretty much making fun of you, get so much traffic because of your hatred of them. And to me, it's just silly. But I believe you finally found the guava straws, like the fake plastic. The
they made a guava?
One. Yeah, the plant-based.
I thought it was like corn or something. I don't know.
The one I had when I was in LA, I had one. They said it was made out of guava, but plant-based straws is definitely the way to go if they can quote unquote afford it. With all the money they're saving by paper straws and not using plastic. But that's it.
My problem is going to be I seem to see that there's a lot of resurgence of plastic cups and that drives me crazy because I like a drink in a glass. I don't like a straw, but I like a drink in a glass. But I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more there's the irony of it. If casinos that would regularly always use glass are starting to use disposable plastic, using a paper straw in a plastic cup is a little crazy, if you ask me. But
I've been doing that for about a year and a half now, and it makes absolutely no sense. And it's very
somebody sent me a story where they were at a pool and they had the plastic cup, paper straw. They took their cup back, to save the turtles or the universe or whatever. They take their cup back, their big plastic cup, back up to the thing, or like, can you make me another drink? They're like, we can't reuse that giant. You're going to have to throw away that big ass plastic cup with a paper straw in it. I'm like, come on. The turtles are fine. Nevada's not near turtles. I'm sorry. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a little late in the show to be doing a rant, but.
Yeah, no, that is one of those things. Well, so basically,
I disappear? Where am I?
You're frozen again.
You're frozen. But we hear you.
Aren't people doing this? Aren't people doing this on Instagram? It's just a black square to me. No. All right. Oh well.
I kind of like.
I knew it wouldn't go off.
Take a picture.
No, I knew it wouldn't go off flawlessly. Can you see my face?
We can see we can see your face.
It's wonderful.
Am I moving?
No.
Oh no! Don't give Mark more attention. I'm going to refresh the thing and see if it'll work because we have to say our goodbyes or whatever.
No. I'm giving Mark attention right now.
You don't have to give me any attention. It's totally fine.
Okay, I'm going to Okay, I'll be back in 1 second. Don't. Okay.
Don't. He will be back. He will be back in a second. Well, no, this is a really it's an interesting episode. Oh, there you are. So you're back.
That was the saddest 20 seconds in the history of YouTube.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, we can always edit it. But you know what? This shows the beauty of doing a late show. Before we wrap up, because we're just at about an hour, and I don't like to keep people too long. A lot of people have been asking about. You have a new dog called Bella believe me, a couple of people commented on it. Do you want to tell us anything about Bella, or what's this decision to get? I mean, the pictures are great. I'm really impressed by it.
That's a little personal. You want me to see if she's up? Here.
Uh-oh, there's Bella.
Hey, Mark.
That's how you get rid of her?
Mark, give some scoop or whatever you like to talk
about.
What's for lunch?
For lunch, I'm going to have 3 slices of peppermill turkey and a slice of provolone cheese on wheat bread. Maybe a little mustard. It's going to be spectacular.
That sounds good.
That's part of my mindful eating in the present, I believe, is what I learned I'm doing.
And are you in good spirits? Are you excited for this Vegas opening? Are you nervous? Excited?
I'm a little too excited. I was trying to make a plan, and I was just getting a little bit too into it. And I feel like I need to not be that.
Oh, look at that.
Can you see her? This is Bella. This dog technically belongs to Melissa Vegas, but she loves me. Can you see her?
We're trying to. Oh, there we are. There we have. Oh, there we have. So is this the first time you're a dog dad?
Yes, I'm co-parenting temporarily, but yeah, just so ugly, ugh, and not very smart, and not very affectionate.
Like father, like son.
So did you ever see yourself as a dog dad?
Oh, I'm a dog person. I just didn't want this. I wanted a real dog, like a border collie, or not one of these.
Oh, actually, before we finish, I remember you once mentioned this. You've done some things with rescue organizations in Nevada, right? Or yes. in the Las Vegas area. I remember you. You should talk about that more often, because that's amazing. I happen to have a rescue dog, Mr. Leo. So I'm a huge fan of rescue organizations. Oh, look at that! There's the thumbnail for the episode.
Look at that.
I already tweeted the thumbnail of the episode.
Can you superimpose Bella's face over Mark's? That would be the best.
That would be the best.
Oh, there.
Even Bella's yawning. That means we've gone on too long.
Yeah, I think Mark needs a dog. Mark needs a dog too. But we could deal with that a different time. So anyway, thank you. Are there any final words? Let's do. You know what? We'll do final words from Mark first, and then we'll do final words from Scott.
Looking forward to the world opening up again. It feels like I've been trapped inside, even though I've been able to go out in this area. I feel like a local, and I don't enjoy feeling like a local. I like going to casinos, and I can't wait to get back out there and, just walk through places that I've loved for years. And, it's really not fun walking in a park again, for the 30th day in a row just to get some fresh air and see something that's not my apartment. So I'm looking forward to that, and can't wait to do it. And if I'm feeling sassy and not stoned on my couch at midnight, maybe I'll join Scott somewhere.
Wow, that sounds like a good plan. And Scott, any final words? Thank you for taking the time to join us today, especially with the lovely Bella.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. You guys are doing a great job. Every episode I watch, I'm like, oh, I got to talk to them about this, and then of course I forget all about the stuff that I wanted to say. But yeah, I think people are watching Vegas. It's it was already a horrible situation, and the protests happening. There's been some question about whether that's going to delay anything. I think Miracle Miles said they're going to delay for a week. I don't think the casinos are. Some have pushed back a few hours, but not like days or weeks. So I think folks are going to find that there's still a lot of Vegas to enjoy. They might not be able to see a Cirque show or go to a nightclub. But the folks that love Vegas, they know that a reasonable amount of precaution is warranted, but you can't live in fear. I'm probably getting close to being a vulnerable population person, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do what, the basics. I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to I am going to adhere to the social distancing. I'm not going to wear a mask. Nobody's mandating that customers wear masks at this point, I don't think. But just come have fun, and if you're not comfortable coming now, don't come now. Do what makes you comfortable. You
Excellent
have to think
advice.
about your family and your personal health. So whatever your comfort level is, don't just stop watching the news and just, get the basic information and understand that the sky is not falling. And, ultimately I would say, Vegas is not any different than any other part of the country or the world trying to reopen. I think casinos are stigmatized sometimes because it's perceived there are crowds of people touching each other and everybody's having sex. That part is true. But, casinos are like any other business. And we haven't seen these just massive spikes at the grocery store or at the hardware store. And everything will be fine. That is my overriding message. Everything's fine. Chill. There are smart people working on this to make your visit safe and so that you can have fun. And you might not be carefree, but that's the goal. I think everybody wants Vegas to be a place where you can be carefree again. And I really want that too, because I'm not immune. I've been very passionate about reopening, but I'm not immune to the concerns. I just, there's a reasonable amount of care and you can still have fun and you can still drink and gamble and you'll be fine. So that's my message.
Well, thank you for all the positive remarks. I thank everyone for joining us today. I'd like to remind you to follow Vital Vegas on Twitter. Follow Mark on Twitter, Meltz Vegas. Please join the TravelZork Facebook group because we love to have very interesting conversations there. Visit TravelZork, and I'm hoping I see you guys this weekend if they'll let me back in the country, so fingers crossed. And like you said, everybody, please be safe. Do what you're comfortable with. Please follow the rules that are in place, and take it one day at a time. And thank you again. So I guess till next time. Wow, look at that, Bella. And have a great evening, guys. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Wave.
Bye, dog.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.